Let's learn the perfection loop knot, which is one of the easiest and most versatile loop knots out there. I'll first show you how to tie it both on its own and attached to a piece of tackle. And then I'll show you two situations where you really shouldn't use this knot. So make sure you watch all the way to the end so you're not making those mistakes.
All right, so getting right into it for this knot, I'll first tie it just on its own, and then I'll show you how to tie it directly to a piece of tackle. So you take your line, and you can use braid or mono or fluorocarbon. I'm just using really high contrast line. And you want to take it and then bring it back on itself to create the first loop. Now you can do this either direction that you prefer. I'm going behind it, and then obviously the tag end is coming off to the right side. You can do this in a different way, but just keep in mind that obviously if your tag end is to the left, then you're gonna have to reverse these directions. So I have it pinched like so with my thumb and then my index finger, and I'm holding one loop. So what I wanna do is take my tag end, and I want to wrap it one complete time over my thumb and over the back of this loop that I've created, right? So I'm not bringing this tag end in front of the loop. It's behind, completely around the thumb and behind the knot entirely, or behind the loop entirely. So the next thing I want to do is take the tag end once again, and this time, instead of running it around my thumb, I'm going to run it in between my thumb and this loop. So I have this little area where I'm pinching here. What I want to do is take the tag end and run it in front of the loop, but behind my thumb, like so. So what I've just did is essentially I took the tag end and I ran it in between these two loops that I've created. So then what you want to do, while keeping all of that pinched with your thumb, is you can go in behind the first loop that you created, and you can grab this loop that's sitting on your thumbnail right here and pull it through, like so. So I'm just bringing my fingers through, I'm pinching the line that was sitting on my thumbnail, and then without letting go of everything that's pinched with my thumb, I'm pulling it out and through this loop, like so. And if you have enough tag end, it won't slip away or anything like that. It just kind of sits out to the side. So then you can just hold on to this, and then you can take your main line down here and you can just give it a pull like so, and the knot will fall into place. And you'll know right away if you did it correctly or not, because it won't slip, just like so. Before you fully tighten it, so you know that you've tied it, it's not slipping, what you want to do is lubricate your line. It's always very important to avoid any sort of extra friction. So you go ahead and lubricate your line before you tighten it down. While that's happening, if this video has been at all helpful to you, hitting that like and subscribe button really helps the channel, and I appreciate it. Okay, so the line is lubricated, and now you can really take it and give it a pull. You can make sure there's no slack in the tag end like so. You can take your clippers and clip the excess line, and you see one of the strengths of this perfection loop knot is that it's right in line with your line. Not all loop knots are like that. This is a really good one in this regard, and for that reason, this is a good loop knot for tying on your terminal tackle like hooks and other things. So let me show you how to tie this directly to a hook. So to tie the loop knot directly to a hook, you want to start the same way with your hook nearby, and you're going to take your line and again, fold it over on itself with a big loop, and come behind your main line and then pinch. So in this case, I have my tag end out to the right, just like so. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hook, and at this point, I'm going to run that tag end through the eye of the hook, just like so. Nothing else has changed about this knot other than I'm just running the hook, the eye of the hook through that tag end, and then I can bring it up and just pinch it with my thumb. But nothing else has changed from how we tied this originally. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tag end, and just like before, I'm going to run it around my thumb and behind the first loop, like so. And you can see that it doesn't have to be tight on your thumbnail. And then I'm going to take it, and just like before, I'm going to take my tag end and I'm going to bring it between the two loops that I've created. So right in front of my thumb, or rather, I guess behind my thumb, but in front of this loop here, just like so, same as before. And then the other difference at this point is instead of, reaching through and pulling everything through, which you can do, you would just have to grab the hook. what I want to do, it's typically easier for me. I just take the hook and then I just go ahead and put that through that loop, which is the same thing that we did before. We would have accomplished this by pinching the hook and then pulling it through, but it's just a little bit easier sometimes with the weight. And then at this point, we could tighten it the same way. If we do want to make the loop smaller, we can go ahead and just pull on the main line at this point, just like this, to make it a slightly smaller loop. And then as it gets nice and where we want it, we can go ahead and make sure our tag end is somewhat snug and the main line is snug. And then again, before tightening it, you really want to wet the line. Now that our line is wet and lubricated, we can go ahead and give it another final tug like so. And again, it shouldn't slip at all, and that's how you know you tied a correct loop knot. And for the perfection knot specifically, you also know it's correct because that tag end comes out right at 90 degrees. Now here's two situations where you probably don't want to use this knot because for all its pros, like everything, it does have some cons as well. The first is that the tag end of this loop comes off the knot at a 90-degree angle, which might become a problem if you're using heavy line and you're fishing in areas with weeds or algae or debris. The second is that while it isn't a weak knot by any stretch, it definitely is not the strongest loop knot. So in situations where you can't afford to lose a fish, or you need a weedless presentation instead, I recommend tying the loop knot in this video instead, which solves both of those problems. Thanks again for watching Tight Lines, and remember, just the lip.